Hello and welcome. Welcome to my new podcast. So, this is just an introductory today to let you know who I am, what I do, and why I'm doing this podcast, most importantly. Because this is new for me. This just came in the other day. Oh, it's time for a podcast. And I think the timing of that is really interesting. So, I know that probably since 2020, maybe a little before that, I discovered podcasting. I discovered listening to podcasts. And what I noticed was how much little snippets here and there would really, really help me. Just little words, little phrases that people had said would land in my system somewhere and just be so helpful. And I wanted to be able to offer that back. I have had the most extraordinary journey. I've been on a healing path for about 20 years now. And I realize I have so much to share. Just by listening to other people talk, I'm thinking, my God, I have so much to share. So here I am. I'm sharing. So what I'm seeing at the moment, what I'm witnessing, I've been a trauma therapist for over a decade now. So I've been working really, really closely with clients. I do a lot of trauma work on myself. I only started being a trauma therapist because of my own personal experience with analytical hypnotherapy and EMDR 13 to 15 years ago when I started. And it changed my world. It changed my world. And so I decided to train in EMDR to be able to help other people change their worlds as well. And I have been doing that for the past, over the past 10 years. And what I'm noticing more recently is, and a lot of people are talking about this, and by God, do I see it to be true. And that is that the world is changing and it's changing fast. And I'm not just talking about internet, social media, all of the things that we're seeing in the 3D world. That is obviously huge change with massive impact. There's no doubt about it. Positive and not so positive impact. That's a whole other discussion. But the bigger picture, the more macro picture, is that the world is changing on a very energetic level. And there's a lot around the Schumann resonance rising. And how I witness this playing out is that all systems are being shooken up. And if they don't have solid roots into the earth, they are beginning to crumble. And I'm noticing that it is a very similar process happening with us human beings as well. We are also being shooken up as part of this process that is occurring on the planet. And I am so grateful that I started this healing journey all those years ago, because I feel it has given me a leg up, if you like, to really be able to navigate a lot of this change that's going on around us on a much deeper, more profound, and ultimately more rooted level. We all need to be really firmly rooted into the earth in order to navigate this change and really make the most of it. Because ultimately, this change is for our benefit. It is the most beautiful and magnificent change that is occurring. But if we're not aware of it, it can bite us in the butt, because when our system is being shooken, anything that's unresolved inside us is going to come up to the surface, and this can feel desperately uncomfortable for us. So when our stuff is being triggered and coming up to the surface, our mind can go blank. This is a very common theme. We feel really cloudy. We can't think straight. We have big emotions and we don't really know how to control them. It's difficult to control them because so much of this is happening on such a subconscious level. We might be feeling the feelings on a very conscious level in our body, but the actual trauma and density and past conditioning that's been triggered in our system is happening on a very subconscious level, and this can feel quite scary. We can feel like we're losing our footing, and sometimes we don't really know where to turn or what to do about it. So my aim for this podcast is to help you navigate all of this. And actually, I am really, really excited because don't forget, I am also navigating all of this. I have a whole host of experience, um, and I want to share it with you. I'm going to share my struggles, I'm going to share my challenges, and I'm going to share how I overcome them. And I just want you to be able to have these tips and tools as well. So, a little bit about me, for those of you who don't know me. I have essentially been on a healing journey for about 20 years now. As I mentioned before, a big part of this for me was doing the deep, deep, deep trauma work. I started with analytical hypnotherapy and then I moved on to EMDR. I chose to train in EMDR because it gelled with my system a little more. And I remember my trainer saying to me, you know, I'm going to give you all of these tools and these skills, but then you go and make them yours. And you use this technique in whichever way suits you. And I loved that. And that's what I have been doing over the years. I have been shifting, changing myself, and I've been adapting all of the skills I learned to take people deep, deep, deep into the unconscious, into the womb, into past lives, into the generational trauma, and to clear it all out. Clear it out, clear it out, clear it out. I work very intuitively, and I really have adapted this modality to make it my own. I also work with energetics, which is, I feel, an incredibly important part when it comes to healing. And I combine all of this to really help people heal anything that's coming up in the system and to help people be really rooted into the ground. Manifestation is really prominent for people at the moment. So many people are talking about manifestation. And in order to really create the life that we want, um, and make our manifestations come into form, we need to be very, very firmly rooted into the ground. Otherwise, they won't come into form. So there's a lot at the moment. Another thing I'm witnessing, I think, at the moment is that there's a lot of people having lots of lovely awakenings and doing lots of plant medicines. And there's so many wonderful ways of really waking up, but then sometimes getting a little bit lost in the ethers and perhaps not fully coming back to earth, not fully integrating the experience into their being whilst they're rooted into the ground. So that's another thing I'm really going to talk about because I'm absolutely passionate about that. Guess what? I was one of those people. Yes, I was loving all the awakenings. I had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. I didn't even know what that was when I had it about 10 years ago now. All my chakras started buzzing. It started with, I didn't even know what a chakra was, by the way, when this happened. My root chakra started and it was going around like a washing machine. And then the sacral opened up and started going around like a washing machine. And then all the chakras built up and my whole body was a vibrational energy field. Energy was pouring out of me. It was visceral. I could literally feel it. People next to me could feel the energy. It was that palpable. And then it got up to my heart chakra, and my chest cavity just blew open, and I could almost witness my heart going up to the ethers. And then it came up, and my third eye opened. And then in a yoga session once, I discovered yoga at that time. I'd never had an interest in yoga before, but I did, and it really helped me contain the energies and do something with them. And then eventually my the top of my head just sort of felt like it had blown off in the middle of a yoga session one time, and I could see the entire universe. So that was a really dramatic experience for me, and I'll probably do a whole episode on that, just in case anyone is going through that and might need some help with that. But it was a really pivotal point for me because it really allowed me to see clients, especially, and to really see what they needed, to see what was stuck in their system, to see what trauma they had. I could see it. My third eye had opened and I could literally see what was going on in their system, which therefore really helped me to help them to shift through it. So the temptation, of course, when we have an incredible experience like that is to keep chasing the high. And of course, we're going to want to keep chasing the high because it feels really good. But it's not sustainable, and it's not meant to be sustainable either. Because the beauty of these experiences is that they open us up in order that we can then come back down to earth and fully ground with the richness of this experience integrated into our system. And that is incredibly important. So I'll definitely be talking about that. But what I do know for sure is that healing is me. Healing is my journey. Healing is who I am. It's who I have become. It is my passion. I love it. It is my work. I adore taking clients through it. Whether clients come because they know they have some trauma and they want to process it, or whether they come because they feel blocked. They might be an entrepreneur who wants to who feels they've reached a ceiling in their business and they want to blast through it. It's also used for Olympic athletes, for example, who might have got the bronze, but they really want to go for the gold. So, the healing experience is about growth. It's about expansion. It's about creating more. It's about living more fully. It's about aligning with our soul. And then the other thing that I'm so passionate about, which has really played a big part in my life, even though I had a lot of resistance to it initially, and that is really coming to that place of understanding that the divine is this incredible energetic presence that lives inside us all. So all of this will be talked about on this podcast in so much detail. All the tips and tools for navigating through all of this. It's funny, just going back to the timing again. I love talking. I've always loved talking. I've always loved talking about healing. I've always loved talking about my work. But it's never occurred to me to share on a podcast before. And the penny dropped for me recently. It fully dropped. I've always known that it's about the journey and not the destination. But I think there was a part of me that wasn't prepared to fully take that on board. And there was a part of me that really thought that I had to get to some sort of destination before I started to share. And just recently, the penny dropped. No, it is all about the journey. I would even go so far as to say the journey is the destination. Because the journey is phenomenal. And the journey is the present moment. And ultimately, all we have is the present moment. So the journey is where it's at. The journey is the destination. And what was really interesting for me recently, having done so much healing, so much deep, deep, deep inner work. I mean, don't get me wrong, I've healed childhood sexual abuse. I've healed childhood developmental trauma in spades. I have healed generational trauma. I have healed so much past lives trauma. I have been healing trauma on a deep level for many, many, many years. And then 4 months ago, I got hit in the face by 3 monumental life circumstances. And I felt utterly floored. And I thought, whoa, how can I feel so utterly flawed when I've done all of this work? And that was another major turning point for me. And this takes me back to the integration piece, because this is when the importance of the integration really hit home for me. And I had been unwittingly, non-intentionally, and without realizing, slightly searching for the highs in the healing process. So there's something so delicious. For example, like I've mentioned, the Kundalini awakening. It's delicious. Plant medicine ceremonies, they're delicious. coming through a really intense trauma healing session and getting out the other side. It's delicious. There's a high that comes with all of that. And I think for so many of us, and it was certainly true for me, I was chasing that high a little bit. So what was happening is that I ended up really excavating perhaps the past more than I needed to, because subconsciously I was looking for another healing high. So it's been so interesting the past 3 months with the monumental life changes that I have. Changes that might have been a Freudian slip. They are currently challenges. They are probably leading to changes. No, who am I kidding? They've already led to changes inside of me. Of course they have. So these enormous challenges, which I will go into in more detail, because I know I'm not alone having enormous challenges in life. You know, we all do. And having three seriously major ones all in one go, it really forced me to take a good look at, very gently, yes, of course, what was remaining in my system that needed healing, but I did it in such a different way this time around. This time around, I actually held the future vision in a much stronger way than I ever had before. So yes, I could notice the parts of me that were still young, the parts of me that still felt wounded, but I was doing it from a very, very, very different space. I was doing it from a place of absolutely facing the future, facing forwards, calling on my higher self, calling on the divine, activating the divine within me on an even deeper level. And what this has brought me to has been absolutely beautiful. Now, these challenges are still occurring in my life. They have not yet been resolved. They are still there. 2 out of the 3 certainly are still very, very active indeed. But what has happened to me as a result of this shift in the way that I have been looking at my own healing journey and that of my clients, because I always pass on everything that I'm learning to my clients, of course, is that when we have this shift in perspective, when we have enough space inside ourselves to really trust that the divine is there, or to take a leap of faith to perhaps trust the divine in us, the higher version of us that is inside us, and asking for the support from the divine that is in the cosmos, what really happened to me next was absolutely beautiful. And that was, I started to really start self-healing. And what this looked like for me was a slightly deeper dive into meditation, an even deeper dive into being in my physical body. And that comes, that's all tied in with what I was talking about earlier about the importance of being grounded. It's not boring to be grounded. It's actually incredibly magical. Because when we start doing the self-healing from that incredibly grounded place, then magic really can occur. And what I got in touch with was utterly beautiful. And it was the beginning of a very conscious awakening into the divine feminine. So I think the timing of this podcast is absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful for me in terms of I love talking, I love being of service, I love sharing. I know there are people out there who I can help, who this information is going to be helpful for, and I want to get it out there. So you will be hearing about healing, about trauma healing, about inner work, about transformative healing tools, about journeys to discovering the divine within ourselves, about awakening to the divine feminine within ourselves. There is going to be so much in here, and I literally cannot wait to start. I have started. Here is the introduction. This is who I am. I am of service to you. I cannot wait to share more. It's going to be raw, it's going to be vulnerable, and I cannot wait to be sharing it with you. So I will see you soon for our first targeted episode. This is just an introduction. Our first episode, which will be on the first topic that I choose. Sending you so much love, and I can't wait to speak to you soon.